I want to welcome everybody. I'm your host today, Linda Stace. I'll welcome you to the Abundant Life Center on Sunday, December 8th, 2024. And it's good to see everybody. And we're now in the holiday mood, aren't we? As we move into Christmas time. So I will light the God candle as a symbol of the one power and presence in the universe called by many names. And the name you choose to use is welcome. So I think what we're going to do next is our beliefs based on my little outline here. Our beliefs. Divine love is the source from which all of life flows. The direct experience of that ultimate source is available to all. All life is a unique expression of the divine to be revered. We co-create our world with the ultimate source and each other through consciousness. There is truth and wisdom in all spiritual paths. We choose the path of love. Thank you. So our opening song is One of Us. It's a Joan Osborne song.
What if God was one of us?
Yeah, I like that song. How many people knew that song pretty well? Ananda and I just loved that when it came out. We'd sing to it all the time. So I love it. I don't know what that says about us. We'll find out, I think, today. So we have the pleasure of having our very own Ananda Starfield lead us in our discussion today. And his topic is, Are you bargaining with God? And he also is going to do a meditation, lead us in a meditation. So I'll turn it over to you.
Okay.
Okay.
First, is the volume about right? Oh, you can hear? Okay. All right, great. Thank you. So, kind of, you've just, you've died and you've made the transition to the world of the incorporeal. You no longer have a body, although you're recognizable in some interesting way as yourself. There's a beautiful glow all around, but no shadows. Nothing casts a shadow. And you notice that you're in a long line. It stretches off into the distance, and there you can see the pearly gates. You get to have pearly gates because that was how you were born. And so it's deep, deep, deep within you that that's your path. And the line is sort of moving, but nobody's actually shuffling. People aren't talking. Some are in shock. Some are resigned. Some are enthusiastic. And for what seems both like a long time and like no time, you're at the front of the line. And Pete's there. He's got your dossier open. And oh my gosh, does he know about that visit to the porn shop? Oh, does he know about that time the guy dropped his billfold and I kept the money? Does he know about the time I lied to mom about lighting the field on fire? Yeah, he does. And you have noticed in as you were waiting in line, and it suddenly comes to you as a memory that occasionally these two, big muscular archangels standing next to him have to drag somebody over to this chute and pew, drop them down. And you really, really, really hope that you're not going to end up in that chute. So you start to formulate your defenses. You start to, well, this is why, this is, I'm really a good person. I made I begged for forgiveness for that error at the time, very soon, very quickly. And, all that really doesn't matter. You have a, what do they call it? You have a rap sheet, and you're basically dependent on uh, the grace of God. So let's say all of us get in. It's nice. I certainly hope all of us get in. And our new thought, our current belief system, our new thought system would have us all get in because it it envisions God as loving, kind, supportive, and forgiving. And so let's hope we all get in. Let's hope we're right and we all get in. So you say thank you to Peter and uh, walk into the gates and proceed to live your life in heaven or between lives, or uh, maybe it all just dissolves. We don't really know. But what did you think uh, for your not picking up the billfold, your lighting the field on fire, the time you lied, the time you may have cheated on a loved one, you know? Did you have excuses, or did you straighten your spine and say, I can take whatever you can dish out? So let's just have a little bit of silence now and let that sink in. So maybe we come back gently, giving ourselves forgiveness, offering our loved ones forgiveness, looking at God with forgiveness. And so it is. Okay. So that might have been a little unexpected. Um, but I think that those of us who grew up in the Judeo-Christian experience, we have that sort of foundation, that structure of looking at our life. And though, yeah, we've all grown, we've all learned and become more adept at uh, throttling those feelings, those self-judgments. But I don't think anybody, well, no, I shouldn't say that. It's few people who have truly transcended their childhood faith. Sometimes we replace our childhood faith with something that seems to explain experience better, because in fact, I think most people would agree that is what faith is for, explaining our lived experience in a way that makes it less painful, scary, um, unjust. So that's why I call it bargaining with God. I know I do it, and I see others do it. I'm not going to point any fingers. Um, you know, there's that little twinge, and then a whole lot of justifications go, and the cycle begins again, hopefully at a slightly higher level of understanding. So I don't have a whole lot more to say. Everybody knows pretty much my epistemological uh, framework, and you put up with me. So, does anybody have any uh, thoughts this brought up, or some good stories to tell on yourself? So, I guess Linda will take over.
Arlene, unmute yourself.
Thank you, Ananda and Linda. I appreciate it. Yeah, a whole lot of stuff came up from me, Ananda, and I really am glad that you brought it up for us. It's great. I don't know how glad I am you brought all this stuff up for me because I go, "Rrr, rrr, rrr," you know. There was nothing feminine in that whole thing. It was all masculine, and part of me feels resentful about that. I have to tell you, I feel left out, and I have felt left out by God from the get go. You know, because it's been masculine, God,
True.
he. And I don't like that. I want a different picture of the God that I know and love and trust. And I want there to be not just feminine either. I want there to be an inclusive way of creating that picture that we make of God, and we label it him, and it leaves out half of us. Do you know that it leaves out half of us? That's a whole hell of a lot of us. Half of us are left out. And I feel a little resentful about that, maybe more than a little. Thank you for asking. That's all my spiel.
Who else has a comment? I think I may need to change the view so I can see everybody. There, okay. So, yes, Carol Becker, unmute yourself.
Well, my early experience with thinking about God specifically, that, not just the church thing that I was in and absorbed from there, but I think I was about 9 years old, And I was still believing in Santa Claus, you guys. And then I found out there was no Santa Claus. And then I thought, what else are they lying to me about? They're probably lying about the Easter Bunny and God too. And that's when my skepticism began.
Yeah. Carol, my big reveal was I was already in sixth grade when my catechism teacher had to explain to me that Adam and Eve weren't real people. And that was what exploded my trust in this whole belief system that they built for me. I'm like, what do you mean? There wasn't really two people named Adam and Eve who lived 4,000 years ago? It's like, so that was, yeah, it was, I was really glad. I'm glad now that ex-priest burst my bubble.
Yeah, you wonder what else is in that book that's not true.
All of it.
So you say ex-priest, was he not a priest at the time?
Yeah, he was an ex-priest. He was our CCD teacher, but he had been a priest and he had stopped being a priest, but he still believed in Catholicism. He just didn't want to be a priest. And so then he was forming young minds and telling us the truth. His truth, whatever truth is. So it's Ananda, what brought your meditation brought to mind for me was I can't judge my experiences anymore. I just can't. They have to just be seen as experiences. Wherever I felt anyone has done something to me or I've done something to somebody else, I try so hard not to judge it anymore because we're just all here in our meat sack having experiences. And, that's, and so I don't, in the new thought, changed up way of believing, what's going to be ahead of me in heaven or wherever is going to just be what I create. And so and thank goodness I do have my Judeo-Christian foundations that makes me want to treat others well. Because if I didn't have that, I might be like some of our politicians today.
Yes.
Okay.
Judy.
Thought I was just going to sit here and watch, but chime in here. First of all, I was intrigued by the title that Ananda chose, but knowing Ananda as well as I do, it fits. Okay. And the first thing I want to say is I am so grateful that you chose this because you're speaking your truth. You're bringing it out. And I love that. I absolutely love that. But it is the old paradigm of fear and judgment is what it is. And that's not what it is on the other side. We are all energy, but I can't prove that to anybody. But the only thing that I can say about, because energy never dies, it just transforms. Okay. Now, when you take a car battery that dies, you need a positive and a negative charge to make it go.
That's right.
The same thing with the heart. When the heart, with the paddles on the heart when you're in the hospital, it's a positive and a negative charge to make it go. Okay. Now, I use the pendulum because of the energy that I produce when I ask questions, and it comes out from my higher self. And I can prove it with my fingers that one finger is positive, one finger is negative, another is positive, another is negative, and the thumb is always neutral. And here you've got the positive and negative energy coming through our body. But it's so hard because we weren't brought up to believe any of this, and it's much harder to believe the invisible. So I think we have to go with start searching for what resonates with us and how we want to pursue it, how eager we are to learn. And I think a lot of it is curiosity and have an open mind. We can't live in a box. Like, I can go back to labels, and you know from my past speaking that I don't believe in labels. I remain neutral. So I hopefully can look at both sides of the picture, and from being an observer, and I can get a formed answer from that. But when we put ourselves in a box, like a Catholic or a Republican or a Democrat, you put yourself in a box and you become biased in one area. And then when you watch the media or whatever else, you listen to only the bias that brings forth what you're looking at. You don't look at the other side. And that's where we go with, there's that shadow side, two sides of the coin, the positive and the negative. Because you look at one side of the coin, but we don't bother to look at the shadow side of the coin, which could be telling a whole different story. There's so much things. And Ananda, I think I'm going to come over and you and I are going to have a long talk. A long discussion. I love it when you and I have talked before, and it's been a long, long time.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if I said anything that makes any difference or anything, but this is how I feel.
What we're here for.
Okay.
Well, I'll share what happened for me before we got to the pearly gates or any of that, you know, being dead. My experience was just kind of like being sparkles that were every place. You know, just absolutely every place. No place, but just, you know, everything, you know, just was all, I guess, I don't know, one isn't this word to say, but there was no boundary. And so when he lined us up at the pearly gates, a little restrictive, but I maintained that experience from the spot I was in line. And when I got up to Peter, it was just, you know, kind of like, I'm divine. And actually he was kind of like that too. It was like this sparkliness was coexisting through. It was really interesting. But then once I went in, this is really interesting. It all, you know, there was all the experience of the, like, everybody's presence from the past, but then I started like going in, and kind of like, almost like, felt like it was dark. I didn't see the sparkles, kind of like going in. And I realized this was when I leave my self-identity and like go into that soup. And so this was the real death. Letting go of I. So that was an interesting experience.
Really? Pretty good.
Okay.
Wow.
May I respond to that?
Sure.
You know what, Linda? That was beautiful. What you have just described from your perspective is what so many people with near-death experiences have described when they have died and come back. So you actually said almost the same things as people that have really died and come back.
Interesting. Who else has comments.
Well, Linda, I just have a question for you.
Mhm.
How did you feel about the loss of your selfness?
There was a little
Because,
scariness there, you know, that's where I went, apprehension, I would say, apprehension. Um, but then it was almost to the point where it winked out and I realized it didn't matter,
yeah,
you know?
uh, very cool, Linda.
Someone else I know has something that they've had
So
go through their
I
mind.
see Cindy.
Oh, Cindy, great. Hi, Cindy. Yes, please.
Well, first I want to respond to something Kay said about, I think you said you were how old when you had this revelation about no Adam and
Can you
Eve?
turn your volume up a little?
You having trouble hearing her?
Yeah.
I don't know if that'll help.
Do I need to do something?
You need
Yeah,
hearing aids.
go over on audio and lower left on audio.
Okay, audio.
Yeah.
There it is.
And click audio settings.
Okay.
Oh, no, test speaker and microphone. Yeah.
Oh, test speakers. So I guess
But I hear everybody else.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she was quieter.
did it go up?
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
I can
thank you.
try to get closer. Is that any better?
That's better. Yeah.
Okay. Now I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh,
Well, you
No, I'm
asked me
kidding.
how old I was, Cindy. I was in the 6th grade.
6th grade. Well, I have to say that I didn't get the startling revelation, new thought that Adam and Eve couldn't have been real people till I was probably 50 years old. So that just sort of outs me as a very strong fundamentalist for most of my life, and I found a lot of certainty and a little, what I call a little closed system that I could live in and feel really good about, like, except for maybe when I thought I was disobedient or displeasing or whatever in my groups definition of what it means to please God. But I lived in that feeling like, well, I'm going to heaven and I need to tell other people, be evangelistic. It was all part of the program. And then I like the word now, deconstruction. My belief in that little circle, I mean, it's just like, it's just blasted. When you talked about the line to the pearly gates and Peter, you know, like, I want to laugh. And yet I also realized that's very comforting and real to a lot of people that, like you said, grew up in our Western American Judeo-Christian foundation. So I don't want to I don't want to knock anybody else's system that's working for them. But it's also, I guess I'd say it's scary and exciting for me that that my belief system has been so deconstructed. It's like I feel like I hit a new solid place and then nope, that falls apart. I hit another solid place. Nope. And so right now it's very scary to me. This subject is, I've never thought I would entertain this kind of thought, but it's like maybe we just die. I mean, I agree with, like, energy transforms, but maybe that energy just goes into the ground and supports the trees and plants and oxygen and that way. And so it's very, I guess I'd say scary and exciting that, like, what if there's no God at all? So I have found myself sort of free falling from what held my life together and finding the questions like, well, what if? And I think somebody, maybe Judy, somebody mentioned curiosity and questions, and I don't know where I'm going to land. And I'm okay with that.
Wow.
Okay, Eric, and then Cheryl, and then Arlene.
Eric, you're still muted.
Oh, yeah, Eric, please unmute.
Here we go. My thought about that, and this comes a little bit from my experience now from recent years, is that, and I went through the different cycle. I never got into, I mean, I was Catholic, but never got into really the how do you say, the spirit of what Catholicism is all about. And had some push as I was a teenager to say, well, I need to make an effort, and I made an effort, but never stuck, up to the point where I got to what Cindy was saying is, is there even anything? And I didn't believe in anything for quite a while, up to a point where I got confronted with energy. And this fits with what Judy was saying. And I've worked with energy, modifying, manipulating energy, and we're here for that. And it does work. Believe it or not, it does work. But to the point that you make here is you cannot get better in the box that you're living in. Right now, the box you're living in is your body, your mind, and your ego. And your ego is loud, and it will tell you what to do, no doubt. Okay? If you're not ready to jump out of this box and get into the box with your soul, you will not be able to improve as hard as you want. You will not be able to get where you want to be. It just doesn't happen, because your ego will always be the strong force that impacts you towards survival. That's what ego is here for, to secure survival. But your soul is here for another purpose. It came here into this body for an experience. And you gotta get in bed with your soul to be able to leave the ego on the side. Now, the ego doesn't go that easily. It has also a life on its own, a cycle on its own, and it will come into it will interfere between you getting in bed with your soul, okay, versus staying with your ego. It will come in the middle, and you will have to fight that. It doesn't go without an effort. But that's my experience from the whole thing. And once you are, I believe, at least that's where I'm going, is once you are fully trusting and faithful to what your ego tells you, and you work for your ego, no, not your ego, your soul tells you, and you work for your soul. I think this is when you achieve a form of ascension, enlightenment. I don't know what it is. I can't tell you. But that's how I feel we are evolving in this process. But you cannot make it out of the box where you live with your ego, your mind, your body, and your ego live together. It's not going to happen. And this is why church, in my view, has it wrong, because ego is always there. You see it everywhere. Of course, you have some people who are not depending strongly on this ego in a church as well. But most of the people, they're sitting there with the ego right along. So that's my point.
Okay, thank you.
True.
Thank you. Cheryl.
Well, Cindy brought up a thought when you said maybe there's nothing. I was raised in a Christian, I guess you'd call it fundamental church in my small little town in Washougal. And when I was 13 and decided that it was all superstition and I wasn't, unprovable, unbelievable, and I lean to science and education and whatnot. I remember thinking when I die, I'm going to go into the ground in a box and decompose, and it was such a relief. That thought was so freeing from the fear that had been instilled through religion. So I've tried my whole life to turn away from what picture Ananda was describing of standing in line at a gate in front of a man being judged. I totally reject that. And I don't even, it was so uncomfortable trying to think that way that I think I've mentally rejected that, but still working on it. But I don't, I no longer think I just go into the ground and decompose into the mud. But that was my start, and it was such a relief. I just felt free from the judgment. So now, through hearing talks and sharing with people and reading books and whatnot, I think we are energy also. I think Eric's really got a handle on the energy more than I do, but I love that concept that we just decompose into another form of energy and go out into, the unknown and unlimited. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So Arlene, yes.
Well, thank you. This is a fun talk. I think it's fun and I like it a lot. And I think that it's all, we create our own reality, and it doesn't matter, in my opinion, it doesn't matter what we call it. It's like what we call a color, the color red, we call it red, but maybe it doesn't look red to you. Maybe it's not the same red to you as it is to me. And the real truth of it is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. And God is everything, in my opinion. It is all this mix. And I don't want to call God him, but I don't want to call God her either. And some people are changing their sexual identity.
Oh, God.
And, I was reading about Cher Bono's daughter is now a man. And I was reading about that yesterday. And the truth of it is, it doesn't matter, because if we call him he or her, he's still loved, and he's still loved and cherished and lovable. And he has work to do in this world, whatever that work is to do. And so it doesn't matter what we call it. And so when we say God, for me, I think of the energy that we all are, and it doesn't have a shape or a size or color or sex or personhood, or how that whole thing about the rightness and the wrongness of behavior. I think that those are labels that we create to teach people it's not okay to hurt each other, and we put labels on things, or that's disgusting, or that stinks. When Cheryl dies and she goes into the ground and turns into mud, there'd be a carrot that grows wherever it is she died, and somebody will eat it, and it'll be good, and it'll be nourishment and healthy and wholesome and all of that. And I think of the outside and the trees and the plants and the light and the life and the color. There's not division about who and what and names and what you call it that matters. Thank you. I'm all stirred up, and I like it.
Who else would like to share something? Thank you, Arlene.
I got something I'd like to say.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I've been on this trip for a long time, trying to figure out from my God experiences when I was a little kid, non-God, and trying to look at the different religions and how they classified things. And Excuse me. But I've kind of given up trying to figure all that out. And I want to experience it. And that's if I can experience spirituality, I'll take as much as I can get of it. And I still go back to the Course in Miracles. There's this holy idea of the holy instant when you can get rid of your concern about the past and all the things you wish you hadn't done or wish you had done, and what you're going to do in the future and how is it going to turn out. And just if I can get myself in that state where I'm just focusing on the present, I can find something pretty nice in there in that instant, and I remember those instances, and I can build those up. So I've been trying to get rid of religion. Been trying to get rid of my religious experience when I was a kid, and I mean, it's interesting to me. I can't say it isn't. I go to places that it's being practiced, and I'm interested in how people are dealing with it. But for me personally, it's got to be my business and the way I'm doing it, and that finding that precious time when I can just feel the vibration of being in the present moment with people, with experiences. That's what builds up my spiritual resolve, I guess, or storage bank or battery or I am getting to the point where I think about death every once in a while. I'm kind of getting kind of close. But I'm just having fun with it. I really don't know how things are going to turn out. I'd probably just be nothing. That's kind of, but I can have some fun with it right now. And I remember I told my mortician over here that it's going to take care of my bones and bury me, that I'm going to do pretty fine over here because there's a lot of people here I know in this graveyard. And we're going to have a lot of fun. I said, at night, we're just going to raise hell. Go out and
Is that a
dance and smoke up this cemetery and remember our old acquaintances. And it's going to be a great time. I got my ex over there sometimes going to be watching over me. I got another family on the other side looking at me. I've got a guy that I was in the Forest Service with, a district ranger. He's just not very far from me. I'm sitting right next to an old Dane that's probably knows Swedish and all that crap, and we're going to have fun. Oh yeah, across the road, I got my orchestra leaders over there, and my cemetery man says, "Well, you're in the right place." He says, "We just have lots of fun here at night, but we have one rule. At 6 o'clock in the morning, you all ought to be back in your boxes," he says. "We don't want to scare anybody else." So I told him, "Okay, I'll be good and jump in my hole at 6 o'clock." So that's my outlook on life.
Well, that's really interesting because I have a nephew that hangs out in graveyards with instruments to see what he can see.
I think that's a beautiful attitude. It really is.
Anyone else want to share?
Well, I just love the way Cindy described the path and the way things are moving for her that as she's moving through, because I feel a lot of that the same way. I get a little bit of knowledge and I think I got it, and then all of a sudden, whoops, nope, that's not it. So thank you, Cindy.
Yeah.
And I like Judy's talk about the energy and the positive and the negative, because that is just a difference of potential that moves things around. Yes.
I would suggest, if anyone was interested, to go to YouTube, use YouTube, and listen to people that have near-death experiences and see if you get anything out of it. They're interesting. They're really, really interesting. And the similarities are just absolutely unbelievable. And again, what Linda described just blew me away when she was describing that, because it's just, boy, you were right there. You were just right on point.
And I was listening to Daniel Brinkley at one of his presentations, and his near-death, well, a couple of different near-death experiences. The first time he was talking about being taken out of the room on a stretcher, and he looked down and saw that all of his plants were sending him energy. So, you know, we are energy, and so are the plants and the rocks and everybody. And so many of us like that, and we like it too when Eric expresses it so confidently.
I think one important part of this whole experience, or this whole journey, is to experience it. We can know anything intellectually. That's easy. That's the easy part. But can you get to the point where what you know intellectually, you also experience it? Okay. And this is the real work.
Well, Linda, Ananda, this was wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Ananda.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So, guess we have another song, and it is Hallelujah. Leonard Cohen. Well, thank you, Ananda. Thank you, Eric, for your support with the program and the music.
Yeah. Great stuff.
Great stuff.
Just a comment. Did you all know that Leonard Cohen was a Buddhist monk?
No.
Oh,
I think he's so deep, and I think that's where it came from.
Lovely.
Oh, wow. Thank you. So let's greet each other with namaste, acknowledging who we are.
Namaste.
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 So as we close, I'll just mention that any contributions you'd like to make to our community can be made either through our website, my-alc.com, or sent to the post office box for the church. And it's used to have our speakers and kind of keep us going. And on occasion, we have the great opportunity to give. So we appreciate all that people contribute here financially, energetically, with your presence, which is priceless, because that's who we are, a community. So thank you, God, for all the gifts that we share with one another. Amen.